As a matter of fact, the way I met my husband, I looked across the room and saw him and got the vibrations. The very first time I ever laid eyes on him, and I said, I'm going to get that man.
In Hollywood history, some stars have become immortal thanks to award-winning roles. Others are remembered for timeless classics. But there are also women who have left their mark in a completely different way. They entered the screen with a beauty that made people stop and stare, with an inexplicable allure. And even though their careers didn't always reach the pinnacle of fame, their image lives on in the memories of generations. Joy Lansing is one such woman. In the 1950s and early 1960s, when Hollywood was still living in the golden age of blonde beauty icons, Joy Lansing appeared as the embodiment of everything the public admired at the time. With her shimmering blonde hair, captivating blue eyes, and a smile that could light up the screen, she quickly became one of the most prominent faces on American television. Audiences could spot her in a host of popular shows of the time, and even though her appearances were brief, she always left a strong impression. Producers realized that simply having Joy Lansing on screen would instantly captivate viewers. However, interestingly, behind that familiar blonde bombshell image was an intelligent, hardworking, and ambitious woman. In an era where many actresses were judged primarily by their looks, Joy understood the advantages and limitations that beauty offered. She didn't just want to be remembered as a glamorous face. She wanted to be a true artist, someone who could prove her talent to audiences who often only saw the glitz and glamour. Many have compared Joy Lansing to Hollywood's most famous beauty icons. But even when often placed alongside legends of her time, she still possessed a unique and unmistakable charm. There was something very special about Joy, a blend of classic charm, gentleness, and an indescribable sadness. Perhaps that's why her image is still remembered decades after the spotlight faded. But behind that flawless beauty lies a far more complex story. It's the story of a young girl who entered Hollywood with big dreams, only to discover that the path to fame was nothing like what audiences saw on screen. Many Hollywood stars enter the entertainment industry after years of training in prestigious art schools or local theaters. But for Joy Lansing, it all started very early, almost as a teenager. Born in 1929 as Joy Ray Brown, she grew up in an America undergoing the great upheavals of the 20th century. When her family moved to Los Angeles in the early 1940s, the city was rapidly becoming the center of the global film industry. Perhaps no one at the time could have imagined that the blonde girl would one day become one of Hollywood's most familiar faces. From a very young age, Joy possessed striking beauty that drew attention. Photographers, casting directors, and those in the entertainment industry all recognized her potential. At around 14, she began modeling, a rare opportunity for many girls her age. However, instead of enjoying a normal school life, Joy practically matured within the working environment of Hollywood. In fact, much of her education was completed while working under contract with MGM, one of the most powerful film studios at the time. The late 1940s and early 1950s saw Joy appear in a series of films with small but notable roles. She appeared in Easter Parade, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and later Singin' in the Rain, a film that would later be considered one of the greatest musicals in film history. Although many of her roles didn't receive the attention of advertising posters, Joy persevered, building her career step by step. She understood that in Hollywood, great opportunities sometimes begin with brief appearances on screen. As the mid-1950s approached, her career began to flourish. Not only did she appear in films, but Joy also became a familiar face on television, a rapidly booming field in America. Her ability to adapt to various roles led to an increasing number of offers. However, despite her striking beauty and large fan base, one question always lingered. Did Hollywood truly see Joy Lansing's talent? Or did they only see the glamorous image she projected? That was the question that would haunt her throughout the rest of her career. For many viewers, Hollywood always appeared as a land of dreams. It was a place where young girls carrying hope, talent, and ambition could become stars overnight. But behind the glamorous posters, the dazzling premieres, and the thunderous applause lay a completely different world. A world that many young actors of that era had to learn to face if they wanted to survive. Joy Lansing was no exception. As her career took off in the 1950s and 1960s, Joy appeared more and more on television and in film. However, along with fame came pressures that audiences never saw. In an industry that heavily emphasized appearance, beautiful actresses were often judged more on their looks than their acting abilities. Joy possessed all the elements Hollywood wanted to promote: alluring blonde hair, a striking figure, and a natural charisma in front of the camera. But these very things sometimes became her biggest obstacle. Years after Joy's death, stories recounted by those who knew her have revealed glimpses of the harsh realities of Hollywood at the time. Meetings were arranged under the guise of discussing film projects, promises of major roles or life-changing opportunities. But the true purpose of these meetings wasn't always artistic. This was a reality faced by many women in the entertainment industry, especially during a period when power rested almost entirely in the hands of producers and studio executives. According to later accounts, Joy developed her own way of protecting herself. She learned to observe, to recognize warning signs, and, most importantly, to know when to stand up and walk away. This required considerable courage, as each refusal could mean losing a long-awaited career opportunity. But Joy understood that fame gained at the expense of dignity would never bring true happiness. Perhaps that's what makes Joy Lansing's story so special. Though she never became a top superstar, like many of her contemporaries, she maintained self-respect in an environment that wasn't always fair. But while she overcame the most difficult professional challenges, another event was silently approaching. And this time, it was a challenge that no talent, resilience, or determination could easily prevent. After years of pursuing a career under the spotlight, Joy Lansing seemed to have learned to cope with the pressures of Hollywood. But as she entered the late 1960s, her life began to take a different, more private and emotional turn. Behind the glamorous image the public saw was a woman who always sought sincerity in relationships. Those who knew Joy often described her as much warmer, more humble, and kinder than the glamorous image the media usually built around her. During this period, Joy formed a very special relationship with Alexis Hunter, a young model and aspiring artist. While many details of their relationship were only revealed years later, accounts suggest a deep bond existed between them. In an era where such relationships were difficult for society to openly accept, they chose to keep their private lives secret. For Joy, it was perhaps one of the few times she felt loved and understood without being judged by her appearance or fame. However, while her personal life offered rare moments of light, her health began to decline. In the early 1970s, Joy was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was a huge shock for a woman who was still very young and still harboring hopes for new opportunities in the future. Those close to her recount that she fought the disease with all the courage she possessed. But the disease progressed, making the battle more difficult each month. On August 7, 1972, Joy Lansing passed away in Santa Monica at the age of 43. Her death was deeply regretted, not only because a beautiful woman had died too soon, but also because of the feeling that she had so much left undone. Hollywood has seen many stars rise and fall, but Joy's case always leaves a special sadness. She possessed beauty, talent, and determination, but it seems fate did not give her enough time to achieve everything she deserved. Today, even decades later, Joy Lansing's name is still mentioned whenever people talk about classic Hollywood beauty icons. Her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is a reminder that success is not always measured by the number of leading roles or awards. Sometimes, what makes a person unforgettable is how they lived, how they faced adversity, and the mark they left on the hearts of those who loved them. And that is the true legacy of Joy Lansing, a woman who lived a short life, but long enough to become an unforgettable part of Hollywood's golden age.